Okay, let's talk about some football and some FPL. We'll get straight into it and have a look at Arsenal's season. I think Arsenal are going to be interesting this year. I've been really reluctant to go anywhere near any of their players in the past because they've just been so unpredictable, predictably average, I guess, under Wenger. But he's gone now, so I think that there is fresh reasons to kind of look at this squad. I think they're going to score a lot of goals. I really like the way Aubameyang was finished last season. He was scoring heavily. They've signed some good players defensively as well, which is another thing that I think is really interesting for FPL managers. The new Greek defender, whose name I will not try and pronounce, and Lichtsteiner, I think are going to make the defence better. They've got a new goalkeeper in to compete with Czech. And I think signing Torreira, the Uruguayan midfielder, as a defensive mid is going to make them a lot tougher as well. So it's interesting. It's just not entirely clear kind of what system Emery's going to play, and how much some of those defenders are going to get forward, and whether players like Lacazette and Mkhitaryan are going to play consistently, supporting Aubameyang. Got a tough first couple of games of the season. They've got Man City at home and then Chelsea away. I mean, I think Arsenal could get results in both of those games with a bit of new manager bounce and those new signings making an impact. But the good news is after that, they've got a fantastic run of fixtures. I think they've got West Ham at home, Cardiff away, Newcastle away, Everton at home, and then a whole bunch of good fixtures, I think, that continue into November. So I'm optimistic about Arsenal, and I think that Aubameyang is going to be the star of the FPL this year. So he's going to be a pick for me. I'm also interested in signing Bellerin. I think he could have a great season under a new manager, and I hope that in the new system that he'll be getting forward and scoring lots of goals, because I think Arsenal are going to keep clean sheets for the first time consistently in a long time. Okay, let's talk about Bournemouth. Do we have to? It's difficult to get excited about Bournemouth. They will be consistent, I guess. They'll same squad, same manager. In terms of players, I mean, I don't think there's anyone really worth picking defensively. Begovic might be a decent choice. He does make a lot of saves and maybe in line for a lot of bonus points. The midfield doesn't look particularly interesting. I think Ryan Fraser looks good when he plays, but doesn't play consistently enough. If anywhere you're going to look at Bournemouth, it's up front looking for a budget striker. There's a couple of good options here. Both Callum Wilson and Josh King are kind of around that £5.5–6 million mark. Do get goals. I mean, we could see the breakout season for one of them. Maybe it's going to be Callum Wilson. I'm not going to bank on it right now, but it's definitely something worth watching as the season goes on. Brighton and Hove Albion. As a Palace fan, they are not my favourite team, but I actually think they're going to do okay this year. I thought they were pretty lucky last year. I thought their squad was kind of terrible, although let's face it, I've got a little bias here. But they've made some good recruitment, it seems, in the summer, and there's a bit of positivity there. There's a lot of buzz around the new signing, Jahan Baksh, so I think I hope I pronounced that right. I think he's definitely worth keeping an eye on. I just don't think that right now at £7 million, given that he's never played in the league before, that is a gamble that I would be taking. He's going into what was a very average team last year as well, so let's see how he gets on. He may well be worth kind of reconsidering after 2 or 3 games. Up front, they've got Glenn Murray, who's unfortunately another year older. I love the guy. I think he'll get points this season. I think you just have to look at whether he's going to get more points than kind of other strikers around that price mark. We just mentioned Josh King and Callum Wilson. Bournemouth, is he going to get that many points? I'm not sure. And then there's Gross. I think he had a fantastic season last season. There's no reason to suggest that he won't have just as good a season this season. So he's definitely a player I'm looking at. I think especially because you saw the new signing will come in and support him a little bit, and Izquierdo started to show a little bit of consistency and form at the end of last season. So yeah, I think Gross is really the player that I'm kind of most interested in. Knockaert is a player that has some ability. He hasn't really shown up yet in the Premier League. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on him. And then Jurgen Locadia, they signed at the end of last season, during the transfer window. Again, with a lot of buzz and reputation, but he didn't get that much game time, or certainly didn't score that many goals. So I'm not sure that he's someone that's worth looking at. So for me, you can't look past Pascal Gross for Brighton. All right, let's talk about Burnley. I would expect to be disappointed with Burnley this season. I don't think much is going to change. They've got a great manager and a good squad, good spirit. Very good defensive record last season. The issue is that they overperformed last year. There's a lot of interesting analysis done on their XG defensively, and they should have conceded more goals than they did on average, and they seem to score goals that would kind of perform well in terms of getting them wins last season. I think that's going to correct a little bit this year. I think they won't find clean sheets quite so consistently. One of the big issues that makes me think that is that they've got no goalkeeper right now. Both Tom Heaton and Nick Pope are injured. I think Stephen Ward is a player that it would be worth kind of having a look at. I certainly picked him last season. James Tarkowski got some buzz, but I think he just dives into tackles in the penalty box a bit too much for me. I can't see him being a consistent top point scorer. So yeah, where Burnley were great last year defensively, I'm just not thinking that's going to vibe this year. There could be a couple of things worth considering up front. I mean, I think both Wood and Barnes are worth thinking about. They're still in that kind of 6 million-ish budget striker conversation. And it's a difficult thing to pick one of those guys that I've mentioned at that price point. They are both quite capable of scoring, points heavily if Burnley can get going and really find some attacking rhythm. Okay, let's talk about Cardiff quickly, because I don't really have a lot to say about them. Obviously, I didn't watch them play that much in the Championship last season. They're managed by Neil Warnock, so they'll be resilient if nothing else. I think if you look at their first 6 fixtures, they've got 3 great fixtures at the beginning of the season. So if you're going to gamble on a Cardiff player, you need to get in there at the beginning and then get out before they play Arsenal at home, Chelsea away, Man City at home. It looks like players like Sean Morrison. I think he's the captain there and has picked up a few goals from centre back. I think he's definitely worth looking at. Yeah. Junior Hoylett was productive for them last season in the Championship. I just don't know whether that's going to translate into the Premier League. And Callum Patterson scored plenty of goals from last year. Again, he could be a player to watch. He's young. He could easily step up at this level.